Right, hello and welcome back to the Trademark Sports Podcast. We're heading into round 10 this weekend, which is actually nuts how fast this season is going. There's so much things to talk about, always so much happening in rugby league football. So before we get into it today, if you do enjoy the podcast, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about just some stuff we spoke about in today's video. If you're on Apple or Spotify, make sure you drop a 5-star rating. Before we get into it as well, this episode is brought to you by Tom Baker Health and Fitness. Now, I haven't announced it on all the socials just yet, so this is a bit of a podcast exclusive. But I am going to be running the Sydney Marathon this year, and I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to that sort of thing. So Tom is being kind enough to help us out, giving us a program, as well as, just some guidance in terms of what needs to go into a marathon. So if you are running the Sydney Marathon this year or want to get into running and that sort of thing, make sure you go out and check him out. I'll leave a link in the description to his website. And yeah, so you can get in there and get after it, basically. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Get in and get after it. So first off, I just want to make another announcement just on the podcast, specifically to you guys. I've changed allegiances. I'm no longer a Dragons fan. I think it's time to come clean. I've been a bit of a supporter for these guys for a little while now. So it's sort of, some people sometimes call me out on the negativity I have towards the Dragons, and I think it's just because I just grew out of love with them, and I've fallen in love with this team a bit more just over the course. Just been watching them the way they play footy, and yeah, really. It's kind of painful to say a little bit because I don't want to be one of those turncoats, but just gotta say I now support the Dargons. They're just a club that really means a lot to me. They stand for a lot, and yeah, I just hope that I can watch the Dargons win their first ever comp in the next coming years. But seriously, what a joke! How can you stuff up that bad? I knew Brown's one as well. How it said he had that played a different date, he made his debut in the future essentially because he debuted in April and it said June. It's bad. It was not as bad. At least the club's name was spelt right. One of James Graham's milestone games has the wrong printing on it too. I just wonder who's responsible for it too. Is it someone in-house? I hope not, if they're spelling the Dragons wrong. Or are they sending these jerseys off somewhere to get embroidered and they're coming back and they're just wrong? But if they are, surely you would have given them the arse and taking them to somewhere else. Yeah, look, it just sort of sums up how the Dragons have been over the last few years, doesn't it? It's a bit of a laugh. Everyone seemed to get around it. But yeah, so huge news out of the Trademark Sports Podcast today is go the Dargons. Another very interesting thing happened on the weekend, looks-wise, and that is Felice Kafusi's new do. It's certainly something. Went pretty viral. The old, it's not a reverse mullet, because it just is. It's a balding mullet. The reverse fade, we'll call it that. Although it looks like he's still got it faded. It's just a bit of a laugh. Good old Finn Diesel, just buoying the boys with a bit of banter, and it's not great, is it? But I don't know, it's funny. It's good to know he's taking the piss out of it too. Obviously he knows it's not great. I'd love to know if he just lost a bet or something, and that's why he had to he's grown it out over suspension, because he got suspended to come back with that. So I wonder whether that was a Wayne Bennett thing of righto, you've been suspended, you've got it now, this is your punishment. And it could actually be too just some Wayne Bennett tactics, because they've had so many injuries and they could have just fallen off a cliff. But they won some pretty good games that they weren't expected to. So is this actually just a Wayne Bennett masterclass? Probably not. It's probably just Finn Diesel taking the piss. But look, I reckon I'm onto something here. And another player we've got to touch on quickly, just because of how informed they are. That is Sam Walker. Bearded Sam Walker is now 2-0. He now looks of age too, which yeah, make that what you will. But yeah, Sam Walker against the Dragons came out and killed it. It was unbelievably good. And then he goes up to Brisbane against the Broncos. I mean, so there's grudges there for him with everything that happened with them letting him go, which that's probably a player that Broncos really could use right now. That understudy to Adam Reynolds, because he's only 21. So he's still got lots and lots of football left in him. Imagine he was just learning under Adam Reynolds. Every time Reynolds gets injured, he comes back in. So I'm just having a look at what his stats are. The last 2 games, he scored a try. He scored 2 against South early in the year, but so he scored a try. 2 try assists, which he's had 1 for the rest of the season. And that's about the most in-depth stats that they give me on NRL.com or Roosters.com, which is awesome. I want to see line break assists and all that sort of good stuff. There's line breaks, but he's a halfback. He's not going to be doing them. Anyway, basically what we need to know is that Sam Walker's involvement is been off the charts the last couple of weeks. He's been playing some really, really good rugby league. And so bearded Sam Walker might go down as one of those iconic kind of players. There's been huge developments over the last week or so about David Fifita. Now, I believe there was a clause in his contract where it was by round 10, like a get-out clause, where if he wasn't happy with the situation in Gold Coast, he can be like, see you later, I'm going somewhere else from next season as well, I believe, which is huge. So as a part of that, Fifita has met with the Panthers, the Roosters, and the Dragons, I believe, are the clubs that he's met with so far. And from all reports, Panthers are going to offer him $850K a year, which that's bloody good money. Yes, he's on that 1.2 now, but you sort of take that pay cut to win a comp, don't you? And it's not as if he's going to be struggling to put food on the table, $850K a year. So I think you'd be stupid not to do that. Obviously, the Roosters, again, competitive. I can see why it's signed for there. Again, another really good club, good location to live and that sort of thing. The Dragons, as much as I'd love him to come to the Dragons, I think he's a really dynamic second rower and can be one of the game's best. I don't think he's coming down now. I know his girlfriend Shaylee used to play for the Dragons, but I don't and that could be some sort of package deal, I guess, trying to get her back down, but I'm not sure how well that'd go for them. But yeah, Fifita at the Panthers would honestly be nuts. Imagine him on that left edge playing like Kiki did when he was there for those years. It's seriously not fair, but credit to Penrith for being able to develop a system and lose all these players and still be one of the best teams, well, the best team in the comp, and then be able to bring in a star like David Fifita. Yeah, pretty nuts stuff. I've got 2 more talking points, and then we'll get into my tips and then your questions. So next one is Ryan Pappenhausen, the poor bloke, getting injured again. He had a break in his ankle, the same one he broke last year, but not as bad. Something to do with the plate, I believe. Yeah, according to NRL Physio, with the break and stuff, he'll be back in about 6 to 8 weeks, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, which is really good. It gets him back in peak Origin time, which is fantastic for the Storm. It's a big boost there. And Suafalonga's come in and been fantastic, but you just feel so sorry for him. He just seriously cannot catch a break with the amount of injuries he's had over the last 3 or 4 years. We're looking at a player who probably could have won a Dally M or 2 in that time. Another thing that's sort of going to be very interesting to watch this weekend is Spencer Lenu's return from suspension. So he's had 8 weeks out after the Magic Round incident. He'll be very fight ready to go. I've got him down as honestly still a smoky to play Origin. I think at the start of the season he was a guy that I looked at and went, he should be playing Origin footy. He's just got that mentality, that mongrel to go after the Queensland pack. Imagine him off the bench could be sensational, to be honest, to watch in Origin. And he's got 4 weeks to prove it. I think there's still definitely in the forwards some spots that start for grabs within that blue side. And I think he could definitely be one of those guys that puts his hand up if he can play really good footy. Obviously, the Roosters have a couple of forwards that are in really good form at the moment. Angus Crichton, for one, who probably will be in that team. And then as well, Terrell May is pushing for one of these forward spots. So if he can outshine him and sort of take away his minutes in the rotation, that'd be definitely something I'm keeping a close eye on at the Roosters. I just think that Lenu's punch off the bench would be seriously fantastic in Origin. He's the best bench player in the comp in terms of just pure impact and style. And I think his game really suits the state of Origin football. And I think he definitely could be there in game 1 with a good month of footy. So that takes us into my tips for this week. First off, we've got the Dolphins versus Manly up in at Suncorp, and I believe the Dolphins they've got Herbie Farnworth is back. They don't have any of the forwards back just yet, which sucks for them. But Manly also still without Wale Olakau'atu and without Nathan Brown. So I do think when you look at that, I think that Dolphins have got some really good wins recently, like just without all these players, and I think they're going to be really up for this game. Rather, Wayne Bennett won't want to lose to Anthony Seibold as well, just because of his pride and that sort of thing. I'm tipping the Dolphins, honestly, in Brisbane. Like, it's a bit of an upset there, but I do think that the Dolphins have it in them to get the job done. And then the next game of the round is Panthers versus the Bulldogs. Panthers getting Nathan Cleary back makes it hard for the Bulldogs there. I think the Bulldogs will definitely put up a fight. I think $5.50 odds is huge. They might get blown at the park. They might not. Obviously, Panthers haven't, like... To be fair, though, like, they nearly scored 50 points last week playing average footy. So you get Nathan Cleary back in that side. The score could be anything if the Dogs do roll over. However, they have been better this year. And I just, it's one of those ones. It's going to be hard for the Bulldogs to rock up and really stick it to them. I think they'll go with them for maybe the first 20, 30, and then the Panthers just grind them down after that. Then it's the Eels versus the Broncos. And this one's, like, interesting because the Eels are still without, like, a fair chunk of their players, and that's why they're at such long odds. But they're also playing in Sydney. They're playing at home, and they look keen to, like, sort of just bring back the form a little bit and, like, bounce back and have a big win over the Broncos, who are without Adam Reynolds, and that's, like, massive for them. They haven't been... 2 weeks ago they were really good. They weren't great last week, even when Reynolds was still on the field. So, like, make of that what you will. I do think, though, that it's going to be a very hard ask for the Eels, and I'm going to tip the Broncos there. Then we've got the Tigers versus the Knights. Now, the Tigers are without Aiden Caesar again, so that direction, that leadership around the park isn't going to be there for them, and it's just hard. Like, they've got a good team, a good solid young team, but they just don't have the experience there at the moment, and especially in key positions like the halves. I think that's going to, like, really be to their detriment this weekend against the Knights, who have got scraped a couple of good wins without Kalen Ponga, so they're building their confidence back up just as a football side. A couple of tough, gritty, determined wins. So I do like the Knights there again. And then it's the Dragons versus South Sydney. The Trolls back for South. So obviously they've named basically half a reserve grade side. And that's like, look, I'm tipping the Dragons. That's kind of half the reason why I think the Bunnies might win is everyone's written them off. It's set up for one of those stories where they come out and win in a close one. The Dragons obviously lost the last couple of weeks, got flogged by the Roosters, and then they weren't all too bad last week against the Sharks. They just got outclassed by the best side in the comp at the moment. So it's just hard to try and tip this one. It's one of those games that can just go either way. And then we've got the Dragons there. Then it's the Storm versus the Sharks. Now Storm without Pappy, obviously we saw about before, and Jerome Hughes, which makes it like they have massive losses for the Storm. Come in like Suafar Longo, fantastic, comes in at fullback, and then Tyron Wishart goes into 7, but which means they're having to play Grant Anderson on one of the wings, which is certainly not their first choice at the Storm. Sharks relatively full strength, no Toby Rudolph, but apart from that, it's, from what I can see, pretty full strength. I think the Sharks get the win, to be honest. I think they travel down to the Storm and show because it's 1v2, like it's a massive game. And they prove to everyone that they are the real deal this season, and Nico Hines basically is on an Origin audition this weekend. So it'd be interesting to see how he plays, but I've got the Sharkies winning a close one there. And then moving into Sunday's games. First one is the Chooks versus the Warriors. Got the Roosters there. They've sort of hit a little bit of form. Looking pretty good. Warriors are now 3 on the bounce. Losses. Capel's out again. It just looks like the Warriors are having the second season blues a little bit like the Cowboys did, as well as the Eels to an extent, I guess, because they dropped out of the 8 last year too. But yeah, I just think for me, Warriors don't look up to speed just at the moment, and Roosters win that one. And then last game of the round, very lackluster Queensland derby, in my opinion. It'll be Titans versus the Cowboys. I'd like to say that the Titans can get a win, but look, it's just hard. They're getting just pumped with injuries. Tanner Boyd's now dislocated his wrist. Yeah, it's not good viewing for Titans. Cowboys should win this one. I say should. You know what the Cowboys been like this season. They should have won a lot of games already that they've lost. Obviously, like their defense hasn't been great. Like this game, if you're a betting man, or woman or person, should go overs because neither of these sides can defend at all. But yeah, that's it. So this round I'm tipping Dolphins, Penrith, Broncos, Knights, Dragons, Sharks, Roosters, Cowboys. Hopefully we go 8 for 8 for the first time this year. Now we get into your questions. We're just talking about the Cowboys. So from Harvey.C_, he said, will the Cows make the 8? Got to be honest, right this second, I'm going to say no. They just seem to be lacking something. And I mean, when I think about the Cowboys, because they've got fantastic players right across the park, they should be making the 8. Their squad's really, really good. And I think, what do they need to do to be able to be a top 8 side? And it is just defend. I'm not sure what the go is with their defense and why it's not working, whether they need to use like system or just tweaks to the system, or whether they're just not fit enough, or like what the go is, but they're just leaking points like nothing else. So I think if the Cowboys can fix up their defense and start conceding like 16 to 20 points a game rather than like 30, then yeah, they will make the 8. But right this second, if I had to make a decision right now, I would say the Cowboys do not make the top 8. And then question number 2 is from Matthew Hasarati, who says, who's been the most surprising team this season, good and bad? So let's have a look at the ladder, and I'll make my mind up about who I think has been the most surprising team and most disappointing team. Well, disappointing teams obviously will be the Rabbitohs. Like their squad, they should be top 4. They should be up where the Dolphins are. Really, like in 4th there. Like, really should be competing for a premiership, and it's just fallen apart. It's not great. They're just, man, I don't know how to fix the Rabbitohs. Hey, like, yeah, Wayne Bennett would be a start. Speaking of Wayne Bennett, I'm tossing up between 2 teams as my surprise. What's surprising to me is Manly's in 5th. I feel like they haven't been great. Stuff it. I'm going the Bulldogs is my surprise team in the good aspect. Like I always thought they were going to improve so far this season, but if you had told me that after round 10 they'd be in the top 8, I would have been like, what? Really? They got a 50% record, and I just think like their systems are really starting to show. They've got players buying in, they want to be there, and the Doggies, man, like they had a good comeback win against the Tigers last week. And I know it's the Tigers. I understand this. But in saying that, right, the Bulldogs of old, they go down, like they go into halftime, 14-6 down in the wet, and they do not turn up. They just, like for that second half, they roll over and they're getting beat by 30. And then it's just like heads down. Like, and then from there, the season spirals. But they came out, they showed resilience, they didn't concede a point in the second half, and sort of that shows to me, it signals to me that there's been a bit of a shift in the tide there at the Bulldogs. I think Stephen Crichton has been a fantastic buy coming over, really good signing in terms of just like general leadership. Obviously, like his personal form hasn't been as good as it was at the Panthers, but that's what happens when you're playing the outside backs and you change halfbacks from Nathan Cleary to Drew Hutchinson. With all respect, I do think Drew Hutchinson's played his role really well. I know people tend to hate on him a little bit, but is Toby Sexton going to do all that much better? I'm not too sure. I think it's definitely something to look forward to in the future, though, is bringing in a new halfback or just developing a young guy like Mitchell Woods who's coming through the grades. But yeah, that's all from me from this week. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you did, drop a like, subscribe, or leave a 5-star rating, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Don't forget to Scotty, drink your water, and Bradman, do your best, and go the Dargons.